Hi, let's look into control statements in Go. First, let's look into if statement. It's like any other language, but there is no parenthesis around condition. This is the syntax of if statement. So there is one speciality in Go where you can declare variables that are scoped to the condition. See, I'm using I only in this if condition. You can basically initialize the same I here. One thing to remember is that you can't use where, you can only use colon equal to operator. That's about if statement. Now let's look at for loop. There are four types of for loops in Go: a complete C style, condition only, infinite, and for range. You might already have seen a complete C style before. This is how it looks like. First comes initialization, next condition check, next the updation part. Same like if, you should only use colon equal to operator, where is not legal. Next comes condition only for loop. There is no while loop in Go. We can use a condition only for loop like a while loop. Condition, you can see we are only having the condition part. Next comes infinite for loop. We remove all the expressions and just use for, and this will run forever. Infinite loop. Next is for range. This is used for iterating over elements in some of the Go built-in types like strings, maps, slices. Okay. You get two loop variables. What I mean by that, you can see this is a map, and while iterating through the map, I'm getting two variables. One is a key, next one is a value. In the same way, for a slice, it will be index and value. See, the first variable is a position that is been iterated, and the second one is a value at that position. This is a very important point. Go requires all of our declared variables to be accessed. This is a valid declaration. Then why the error here? You can see declared and not used. Let's say you just want to access the values. You don't need the keys. Then how will you omit it? You can ignore them by using underscore as the variable's name. Here is a map samples, and I only want to access the value. So I used a underscore in place of key. In the same way, if you want to ignore the value, you can use underscore in place of value. Let's look into this example where we are iterating through slices of strings. The first one looks good. Coming to the second string, one first point to note is that we are skipping 7th position. Next thing, we can't fit 960 in 1 byte. The maximum value for 1 byte is 255. The for range loop iterates over rooms, not bytes. So whenever it encounters a multi-byte rune, it converts it into 32-bit number, and the offset is incremented by number of bytes in the rune. 2 bytes are enough for 960. That's about iterating through strings. Next, let's look at break and continue. To stop the loop from executing further, we'll be basically using break. To skip the current iteration and jump to the next one, we'll be using continue. So what happens is, when I reach E, I said continue. So it won't print E. These statements will not be executed. it will go to the next character, the next iteration. It will go to L. Okay. For P, I have given break. So what happens is, for apple, when I reach first P, it will break. So no other iterations are been done. We'll only get A. That's the difference between continue and break. Let's execute it. You can see for E we said continue, so E won't get printed. And for P we said break, and we'll only get A from this string. Next, let's look at labeling for statements. Taking the above example, if I equal to E, I gave continue. But I want to continue to the next word, but not the next character. Basically, I mean, I want to continue to the first for loop, not the current one. How can I do that? By using labels. Let's say this to be for loop 1. And right, let's execute that. See, H and A. So when I reach E, I said continue to the for loop 1. So it will come here. It will go to the next string. Labels are always indented to the same level as the rest of the block. Why? It makes them easier to notice. Coming to switch statement. One thing to note, same like if and for, we won't be using parentheses. And same like if statement, you can initialize a variable here. You can't use where, only colon equal to is legal. And don't forget to end it with a semicolon. That's the same for if. One difference is that Go doesn't support fall through. If there are multiple matches, you separate them using commas. See, I want to print word is short for all the words which are of length 1 to 4. So instead of, generally in other languages there is fall through, so we can uh, use it in this way, but this is not legal in Go. We'll be using comma. You can see we use case keyword followed by the value, next colon. Same like other languages, we also have default case. So here is the output. Do you observe there is no octopus printed here? Why? You may think octopus is a long word, might get printed, but no, there is no fall through in Go, and these cases doesn't have any thing to execute, so nothing gets printed. Now let's say if you get a word which is of length between 6 to 9, you want to break and stop the execution of the loop. This break will only break from this case, but not the for loop. See, it's the same as the previous one. What you can use here are labels. Let's say I'm using a for loop to label here and break. Let's execute it. Now, and the project doesn't get printed because you're breaking from the for loop. Thank you.